Good morning. How you doing? It's good to be here. Hey, I want to reach out today and go over authorized user accounts. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And yes, there's some ugliness to authorized user accounts that you want to avoid. So I want to go over those real quick with you. Excuse me while I cough. Good news is I went to the pulmonologist yesterday. He believes the pneumonia is gone. My lungs are clear. I do have some scar tissue due to the pneumonia. And the blood clot's still there, but he thinks now I have adult onset asthma. And that's why I cough and stuff in the morning. So he gave me some asthma medicine and an inhaler. So hopefully over the next few weeks that cough goes away. So enough of that, right? Just good to be here. How did I get in the credit repair business? That's a great question. In fact, Orion, I would recommend go to YouTube, look me up, and watch my video of my speech at Harvard that I did last year. And that short little 8-minute speech that I did at Harvard Business School will explain exactly how I got into the credit repair business. All right, authorized user accounts. What are they? The good, the bad, the ugly about authorized user accounts. An authorized user account is an account that someone authorizes you to be on. For example, my marketing director. He's stuck in this $5,000 credit card cycle. And that's generally what happens when you have a poor credit score and you get your credit card. You're going to start out in the 500s, the thousands, the 5,000s, but you're never going to get over that 5,000. Maybe you'll get a $10,000 card. You're going to get stuck in that cycle. And so what I did for Hugh was I added him yesterday to one of my black cards. It's got 30,000. It's a American Airlines black executive card. So I added him to that. Comes with a $30,000 credit limit, and as of yesterday, I owed like $95. So I added Hugh as an authorized user to my credit card that I've had open for years that has a $30,000 credit limit and a very low balance. And the balance was just the annual fee. That's all it was there. That's an authorized user account. In this case, with American Airlines, they always ship the card out, but they're going to ship it to me, to my address, not to Hugh. In some cases, Capital One, Home Depot, Sears, Care Credit, when you add an authorized user, you have a choice. Do you want to ship a card to the user? And you can hit yes or no. I generally recommend that if you're putting someone on your credit as an authorized user, to not give them a card unless you fully intend to pay for everything they buy. All right. Now with the American Airlines, I don't have a choice. So they're going to ship me the card. I'm going to take it and I'm going to shred it. Hugh's never going to get the card. Not that I don't trust Hugh, because I trust him with hundreds of thousands of dollars every month. It's just he doesn't need the card. Now, why does American Airlines send the card out? The reason why is with that card, you and 2 other guests can go into any American Airlines club at an airport and generally eat and drink for free, and that's why they send out the card. But he doesn't need it. So I'm going to put him on the account, and this is the strategy. Put him on the account, wait for it to report, and then when I need to, I'll take him off the account because I'm limited to how many authorized users I can have, and the limit is 12. Now, what is that going to do for Hugh? Remember, it's not that Hugh has bad credit. He doesn't have bad credit. He has a very small credit file due to the fact that he's been paying cash for everything for the last 10 years or so. So he hasn't really built his credit. So that's why one of the reasons he's stuck in that $5,000 credit card cycle. That's all he can get is $5,000. Now that he's going to have a $30,000 card hit his credit file, that is going to potentially get him out of that $5,000 cycle because he's got a $30,000 limit, history, and low balance. So now his existing cards, he'll call them and say, hey, can you increase my line of credit? Because it's $5,000 just not enough for the business that I'm doing and so on and so forth. And they'll look at his credit and see he's got a $30,000 card. They potentially could raise him to $10,000, $15,000. But until you get those big cards, he's going to be stuck there. And until you get the cards, you'll be stuck there. So that's what an authorized user is. An authorized user is when someone adds you or you add someone to your credit file. Now, people always ask, if I add someone with bad credit to my credit card, is that going to impact my credit file? And that just shows how little people know about credit and credit reporting. And the answer is no. That person's credit file has nothing to do with your credit file. Think about it this way. When I was a kid, I hitchhiked pretty much everywhere I went up until I turned 16 when I bought my 52 Chevy black pickup. But until I had my own vehicle, I hitchhiked everywhere. And you don't really see a lot of hitchhikers anymore. You see them every once in a while, and if I'm by myself, I pick them up. I generally don't pick them up when Michelle's with me, but when I'm by myself, I'll pick them up. I'll give them a ride. And what happens with that is when you hitchhike, or if you're just riding in the car with your friend, does your driving record impact your friend's insurance rates? No. Your driving record has nothing to do with how much your friend's paying for gas, maintenance, insurance, payments. Has nothing to do with it. So you could be an absolute horrible person with 15 DUIs, speeding tickets, felonies from driving, reckless endangerment, eluding the police, I think that's the right word, but running from the police. So you could have the worst driving record possible. And if I gave you a ride, it doesn't impact my insurance. It doesn't impact my driving record. It doesn't impact anything. That's essentially an authorized user. If I add you to my credit, it doesn't impact me at all. It doesn't hurt me. With the exception that if I give you a card and you go out and you misuse the card, that could hurt me, right? But your file, your credit file, does not have a bearing or impact on my credit file. And that's why I call it piggybacking or hitchhiking, right? That's an authorized user. So that answers that question. Will it hurt me? No. Do I have to give the person a card? No. Now, what does happen? What's the positive part of it? Well, I talked about in Hugh's case. It's going to get him out of that $5,000 credit card cycle. Potentially, he's going to be able to get a $10,000 credit limit. He's going to get his existing lines increased. Now, why is that important? Well, if you watch my videos or listen to my radio show, you'll know that credit cards are the most important thing on a credit report, the most impactful thing. And how you use your credit cards and how you manage them and how you make payments on them will impact your credit score more than anything else. So while Hugh doesn't have bad credit, if he's got a $5,000 credit card with a $5,000 credit limit and he owes $5,000 on it, it is going to drive down his credit score because he's over 10% utilized. But when my $30,000 card that I added him to yesterday shows up, he now has $35,000 available with only a $5,000 balance. That changes the utilization rate. Let me go over that again. By adding him to my credit card with a $30,000 credit limit, it now puts on there he's got an available credit limit of $35,000. And so when they say $5,000 used versus $35,000 available, that is going to increase his credit score. And when they increase his credit score, he's more likely to get an increased credit limit on his existing cards. So he's getting the benefit of my credit history, he's getting the benefit of my credit limits. Again, his bad credit or his lack of credit does not hurt me at all. Julian says, can I add my younger brother to help him since he does? Yes, absolutely. Yes, that is the whole purpose of this is you can add your brothers, you can add your friends. Carla, you ask if I offer it for my clients, and that is a big yes. I do it all the time for clients. I don't do it for every client, but I do it for the clients that need it. So for example, Carla, if you send me a referral and I look at their credit report and I see that they're maxed out on all their credit cards, $1,000, $3,000 cards, and they need 20 points or 50 points or 80 points or 100 points to get the mortgage and everything else, we've cleaned up everything else, I'll simply put them on one of my credit cards. It'll report the following month. That then will increase their credit score. I've seen as much as 200 points. You get their mortgage, and then I take them off my card. I do it all the time. In fact, that's how I lost my Capital One cards last year, was I added a celebrity. They called my wife, because I changed the address at the same time as when we moved to the office to Vegas. She didn't know who the celebrity was, and so they canceled. They thought there was some fraud going on with the celebrity. They thought it was identity theft, so they shut everything down. But I do it all the time. So I've gone over the good of the authorized user account. Now let's go over the bad. The problem when you're hitchhiking or in your friend's car and you're going out to the club, you're going out to work, going to the gym, whatever, you're not in control of that vehicle. You are in the passenger side. Now, your driving record doesn't impact their insurance, but their driving abilities could impact your life in a negative way. And we all have friends like that are horrible drivers, right? That you always want to volunteer to drive because you don't want them driving. Maybe you're married to someone like that. Fortunately for me, my wife is not one of those people. Yes, she gets a little aggressive sometimes, but it's because of lack of patience, not because of inability to drive. But the bad is if your friend does not manage their credit cards in the right way and they overutilize that credit card, it could have a negative impact on your credit score. So for example, when I added Hugh to my $30,000 credit card, if I maxed out that credit card, is that going to help him or hurt him? See, that's why I got to be careful of what cards I put people on. And sometimes I put them on my little cards, like my $5,000 Home Depot card. Why? Because I'm not ever going to overutilize that card. Where if I put you on my $100,000 Capital One card and I max it out, well, that could have a negative impact on you. So I have to be careful with what I do with it. And you have to be careful with who you ask to be an authorized user on their account. Because if they max out that card, it could have a negative impact on you. Now let's get into the ugly. What if they're late? What if they're late? You're doing your best. You got your credit cleaned up. You had your friend put you on as authorized user. Him and his wife get in a fight. He forgets to pay the bill. And now there's a 30-day late on his credit report and on your credit report. That's the ugly. Now, here's the good news. It is illegal for that bank to report you late if you're an authorized user. It's illegal. It violates the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Yet they do it all the time. So here's what I want to say. If you are an authorized user on someone's credit and they're reporting you late, you need to call me because I can get you maybe $1,000. Maybe I can get you $5,000 and I can clean up the credit. If they're reporting the full balance that your friend owes on your credit report, that also is a Fair Credit Reporting Act violation. So I said that was the bad. The bad was if they maxed out the card, it could bring down your score. So let's go back to the case with Hugh. I put him on my credit card. He gets a $30,000 limit showing up on his credit, years of history. I max it out. They show $30,000 owed. That, my friend, is an FCRA violation. They can't report negative information. They can't report full balances unless the authorized user account was the one that ran up the balance. Now, case in point with Capital One, I used to add all these people to my Capital One accounts, and I would never issue them a card. And yet, when I would max out that $100,000 card, it would show up on their credit report as $100,000 owed. That is an FCRA violation. You can sue on that if they don't correct it. And I can help you with that. Now, you're not going to get rich, but you might make $1,000. You might make $2,000. The problem is they will potentially close that account on you. I mean, on you for sure, but on your friend. So that's why it's kind of one of these, maybe we'll do it, maybe we don't. Generally, we see this when we do the FCRA litigation, when we send it through our in-house attorney, is the account was already closed. For example, Capital One last year. I had my kids, I put all my kids on my Capital One accounts. My kids have had good credit since they were 13 years old, and now they're in their 20s. Chastney brought her credit report up to me and said it's reporting late. There's a 90-day late on her Capital One credit card. Now, I had that Capital One credit card, that one in particular, for like 11, 12 years. I'd never been late, ever. And yet they're reporting her late. And the reason they're reporting her late was when they closed my accounts, they closed all my Capital One accounts, even the 12-year-old one. They closed it, and then they sent me a $49 annual fee bill after they closed the account. I simply called them up and said, hey, I'm not going to pay this because you guys closed the account last month, and now you're hitting me with an annual fee. We're so sorry. We'll fix it. And they fixed it. They took the late payment off of my credit. They issued me a credit of $49, but they didn't take it off of my daughter's. And we disputed it. So we're waiting on one more week or so for the letters to come back. And if they come back as verified that she's late, then we're going to do an FCRA lawsuit. And here's the other thing, is they show that she had a high balance. Now, she never had a card. So if she doesn't have a card, you can't report a balance. And you can't report that she was late. Right? So that's the ugly, but the positive side of the ugly is that you can sue on it. Right? That's the positive side of the ugly portion of it, is you can actually sue. You can get your credit cleaned up and you can get some money out. Now, you're not going to get rich. These are not multi-million-dollar lawsuits. These are $1,000, maybe $4,000, maybe. Usually it's $1,000 to $2,000 just to make it go away. We don't want to go to court. We just want them to send you some money, right? Carlos says, I should have called you when my... Oh, yeah. I'm sorry to hear about your mom. But yeah, if they went and removed the authorized user after she passed away, that's an issue. And you can fight it, and you can fight it and fight it. Eventually, they'll take it off. Or the easiest way is to get in touch with me. I send out a simple letter. Very, very simple. Dear Capital One, my attorney told me to write this letter to you. You are reporting me late on an authorized user account that I am no longer on and I wasn't responsible for. Please remove the late payment. Sincerely. It's very clear. It is not like all this case law and 5 pages of stuff. It's one sentence. My attorney told me to write you this letter. And if they refuse to remove it after sending that letter, then we simply follow it up with a lawsuit. So that's the good, the bad, and the ugly of the authorized user game. If you have any questions, send me a direct message or send me an email on it. I appreciate your questions here. If I missed some of your questions, I apologize. I will try to answer them after the video. Have a good day.